right, we've got our 1983 Evinrude 15. The boat is in the driveway, paint and drying, so while we're waiting on that, we're gonna go ahead and get this motor serviced and ready to go. All right, and we got our water pump kit, fresh spark plugs, gapping tool, we got some gear lube, some fresh marine grease, also got our RTV for gasket, and the rocket launcher will not be used in today's video. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Lower unit slid off. Last part we need to get to is just this bolt right in here. Gotta loosen that up so we can disconnect the shift rod. And then this should come right out. All right, lower unit is off and into a very sophisticated apparatus here, shopping basket. Bolts are out, and then there's a little O-ring right up here. We'll get that off. Kit came with a new one. Yeah, I'd say she's good to get replaced. So we've got just some extra gasket compound. I'm gonna scrape that off and then clean the surface a little bit. Now here's the old. Not great. I also don't know the history of this motor. I have no idea the last time it was done. But here's the old hardware, and here's the new. I'm gonna do my best not to lose the impeller key again. It didn't come with gaskets on this, which I was a little concerned. I don't know if that's normal or not on this kit. Still learning, but I would like to think it should have come with a gasket. The existing hardware also didn't have gaskets on either side of this plate. There was some gasket compound, looks like, down around here. So I'm gonna do the same with some gasket maker, or with some RTV, just to match it. All right, this will be our gasket today. I'm just gonna go really thin where it was before, because I don't want to have any, overage getting anywhere. So I'll do a thin little bead and smooth out with my finger, and then we'll put the plate on. And that's already coming out thicker than I'd like, so I might just go with the old fingertip spread method. No turning back now. That's as much as I feel comfortable with. Just because there's no gasket that came with it. I don't know if it's supposed to or not. I would think it would. But that's what I get for not going with an OEM kit. But I guess in hindsight, didn't need that much. But you know what? It's where it needs to be at the end. So, and looking in the bowl here, I'm gonna grease the inside of here. That way it's gonna get the impeller in there a little bit more smooth. And then if you think the impeller is going to be rotating clockwise, so we want to get this spun in here the same way it's going to be rotating on the unit itself. So we'll go ahead and get this spun in clockwise. After several long battles, she is in. And I just dabbed a little bit of grease on the impeller key here, so that way it'll stick in this groove while I get this all slid into place. Don't have a lot of faith in that, but we're gonna hope. Spoiler alert, it did not hold. What I've done in this situation before is I get the housing down right around the impeller here, and then I cover the splines with a towel, like a paper towel or like a light microfiber cloth, and I put a wrench on the end of it and go clockwise gently, very gently, clockwise, so that way we can get the impeller back in its housing the way it should be. It's greased up, it should be pretty easy, but that's how we're gonna try and get that resolved. All right, we're good. Now we'll just need to get the hardware back in, and that portion's done. Housing's back on there. We're gonna get the torque specs from our handy manual. According to the Bible here, this answers one question. So gasket sealing compound is our adhesive. But as far as water pump screws, 60 to 80 inch-pounds. So what's that? 5 to 6.5 feet-pounds of torque. And then when we go to the gear case screws, we're going between 8 to 10. We're gonna go 6 foot-pounds of torque right in the middle of the acceptable range. All right, we're torqued down to spec here. So the next thing I'm gonna do is for this pickup tube right up in here, I'm gonna go ahead and throw some marine grease on that, so that way it slides in nice and easy. We'll also hit the top of these splines with some marine grease as well. And then we'll get this lower unit back on and we'll do our gear oil change and throw in some spark plugs and we'll be just about good to go. Here's the inverse of what I forgot to record earlier, just with this setup to get the right angle. I need to get these bolts back in where they need to go. And we'll go back around and torque to spec. These were 7 and 9, so I'm gonna do 8 just to land right in the middle. Well, I'm stuck. Lower unit, back on. On the gear oil, pretty straightforward. We got 1 and 2, and I've got a little picture underneath that has line mark. I'm always curious to see how much oil actually comes out after doing it. And not really mad at all with how that's coming out. Like I said, I don't know the story on this motor, when the last time anything was done really at all, but just peace of mind knowing that it's done. Whether it's for me or for the next person, I know that it's got fresh oil in it. Got our new gear oil, and we're just gonna pump it up till it starts to flow out of the top. And here's our new versus old plugs. This one had a little incident on the way out, but it's getting replaced anyway, so it doesn't matter. Just for manufacturers, spec, Champion, gapped at 400ths. So these were gapped at about 0.35. These out of the box, I never trust them. These came in at 0.2, so, or 0.02. So we'll go ahead and use our handy gap tool and we'll get these set. And for those that aren't familiar with these, you just put the end of the spark plug in between this groove, and where you start to meet resistance is about what your gap setting is. So if you need to add more, in my case, which I do, we just put it in here and we bend that tip a little bit to get us the clearance that we need. And then vice versa if you need to gap down. All right, we're sitting right at 40. We'll go ahead and test it Dairy Queen style. She holds. All right, new plugs are in. I'm just gonna test for spark to make sure everything's back the way it needs to be, and I can go to bed easy tonight. Spark on the new plugs were great. Only thing I noticed now, not like it's new, but pull cord's a little slow at the very end, get back in there. So try and get that lubed up a little bit. If that doesn't work, just do a rebuild on that. Otherwise, she is serviced and good to go as soon as the boat's done. Just working on paint now. This will go right on the back and hopefully get our first sea trial here soon.